For almost 15 years now, I have been a dietitian, and for most of my career, I've focused on women's health. So I've spent countless hours working with countless women to help them prepare their bodies for pregnancy, increase their chances of conceiving, shorten their time to conception, and reduce their risk of pregnancy and postpartum complications. And for a large portion of my career, I've also been sharing videos here on YouTube to help you do the exact same thing that I help my one-on-one clients do. But there's something that I've always wanted to share here that I just haven't been able to, and that is one-on-one sessions with my clients. I've always wanted to record my sessions and share them here because I think there's a lot to be gained from seeing what it's like to receive personalized care. There are things that come up in session that are so important and only come up because I'm speaking to a person one-on-one that I wouldn't think to share here on the channel. But for legal and ethical reasons, I'm obviously not able to record those sessions and share them. But I can do the next best thing. And the next best thing is to coach myself and share my insights and the action steps that I am taking based on what I'm learning about my own health and reproductive health by going through what I typically guide my one-on-one clients through, and hopefully by seeing some of the sorts of questions that I ask myself, the sort of action steps that I am taking myself to prepare myself for pregnancy, which likely will not happen until my 40s, you get some ideas about things that you can do for yourself, things that you can talk to your provider about, or things that you and I can work through one-on-one if you decide that you'd like to work with me one-on-one, because that is always an option that is available for you to explore. So for the next 6 or so videos, I'm going to be walking you through what I walking myself through, what I walk my one-on-one clients through. I'm going to be taking the exact same assessments that they take. I'm going to be doing the same sort of meditations and guided visualizations that they do. I'm going to be creating a personalized yoga sequence for myself, which I will also share with you. Now, I do want to say this. It's personalized, right? So it's going to be tailored to me, but it's also yoga. So it's going to be universally beneficial, even though it's probably more beneficial for me because it's tailored to my concerns. I'm going to be sharing with you the nutrition changes that I'm going to be making, the supplements that I'm going to be exploring, all of that, not in hopes that you do exactly what I'm doing because it's going to be tailored to me, but that you learn a little bit about what sorts of things you should be asking yourself and asking your provider, or possibly asking me, so that you can create an action plan that is right for you. So this very first video is like our initial session or assessment together. So this is where I go over the forms that my clients have completed. It gives me an idea of where we're starting. It gives me an idea of what they're doing well, because that's just as important as what they may need to change. And so the main focus though in this session and in this video is going to be on the intake form. So in that intake form, I'm asking questions that give me an idea about what their cycle parameters look like, what their sexual health has looked like, what their environment looks like, how well they're sleeping, how they're managing stress, what their mood is like, what supplements they're taking, what medications they may be taking that can have an effect on their fertility, what their height and weight are, so that I can see how many calories they should be eating in a day, because I have seen time and time again that most people are simply not eating enough to support their health and their fertility. And that is regardless of what their body size is. People in smaller bodies, people in larger bodies, across the board, I've seen a lot of women undereat. And I've also seen that once we get them eating enough, things turn around when it comes to their fertility. So those are the sorts of things that I'm going to be taking a look at in myself and sharing with you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the areas where I'm doing well and the areas where I can take some action steps to improve my chances of conceiving. So the first category is the category where things are going well and where we can actually celebrate. So the very first area in this category for me is my menstrual cycle. I track my menstrual cycle. I have been tracking my menstrual cycle, and it is regular. It comes around every 25 to 26 days which is right in line with what we like to see. The length of my period is about 5 days, which is right in line with what we like to see. I don't have any major symptoms. I don't experience clots or anything like that. That was not always the case. Definitely not always the case. And the length of the different phases of my cycle are exactly what I would expect to see or hope to see. Now, as I said, this was not always the case. There was a time where my periods were just so painful. I dreaded them. I would spend the first day or two of my period just like on the floor when I wasn't on the toilet or facing the toilet, because I would also experience a great deal of diarrhea and vomiting. Fortunately, I was able to figure out the sorts of lifestyle changes that I needed to make to give myself a more enjoyable, or at least neutral, period. They're no longer incredibly painful. I do, have lower energy. I'll still sometimes lay on the floor, but it's more because I just think the floor is comfortable and comforting. But it's typically not because I'm in a great deal of pain. The diarrhea and vomiting have resolved. I'd actually love to do a video on the sorts of things that I did to support my periods and my menstrual cycle. Let me know if that's something that you would like to see. Like I said, the lengths of the different phases of my cycle are exactly what I would expect to see. What I'm seeing in terms of cervical mucus production during my fertile window is exactly what I would like to see. The one thing that I will say is that my luteal phase can get shorter if I'm under a great deal of stress or if I'm not eating enough to support my level of activity. That has happened in the past where I've either been so stressed and my luteal phase will shorten by like a week, sometimes just like 3 or 4 days. And there was one summer where I became a lot more active, but I didn't eat more to support that level of activity, and my luteal phase also became shorter as a result of that. So when I see my luteal phase shorten, then I know, hey, you need to check in with stress and you need to check in with your energy intake. So yeah, other than that, everything is pretty good there. And so that is reason to celebrate. The next area to celebrate is my oral health. I have been doing such a good job, it sounds so weird to say, of taking care of my teeth and my mouth. And I'm really proud of that because that wasn't always the case. I did not always do a great job of brushing and flossing. A decent job of brushing, but not always brushing twice a day. And definitely not always a great job of flossing. I've definitely improved. There's definitely still room for improvement when it comes to flossing, but so much better. And in terms of staying up to date with my cleanings and x-rays and all of that, my dental exams, doing so good there. Not always the case. In the past, I actually went 8 years at one point without going to the dentist. I was in undergrad, I was in grad school, and it was like my first year as a young professional. Had no excuse because I had insurance that entire time and access to great dental care. I just was so distracted by life. And I think I also hadn't learned to kind of like schedule those things for myself because prior to that, I was in high school, and so my mom would schedule them regularly. I went away for school and mommy wasn't there to schedule those. And I just hadn't picked up the habit of scheduling them myself. Fortunately, I now do a great job of taking care of those appointments. I don't think we talk nearly enough about how oral health impacts our overall health and definitely impacts our fertility. There's actually research that suggests that there is a link between oral health and risk of infertility. So there was research that showed that people with periodontal disease were more likely to experience infertility. There's just no way around it. What happens in one area of our health affects the other area of our health. I don't remember where I heard this or saw this, but I thought it was such a good way of explaining it. So they had out like a sheet of material and they crunched up one section of that sheet of material. And you could see that as one section crunched up, the other sections were also affected. That's the same in our health. So if something's going on in my mouth, the rest of my body is experiencing the aftershocks of what's happening in my mouth. And that's true for any other area of your health. So I think we need to talk more about the importance of oral health when it comes to supporting our overall health and our reproductive health. Maybe I'll do a video on that too. Let me know if that's something that you would like to have a discussion around. Ooh, I do also want to say this. The other reason that it's really important to take care of your oral health before you get pregnant is because pregnancy can exacerbate the pre-existing issues that you may have with your dental health. So you want to take care of it before you get pregnant, because the hormonal changes that happen during pregnancy can make it worse. So you get it fixed before so that it doesn't get worse as a result of pregnancy. Okay, so I'm editing the video and I have no idea how I didn't mention this, but this is a cause for celebration, kind of slipping over into a not urgent, but we do want to get it taken care of, and that's well women exams. So I am up to date, but I'm only up to date because of this video. I didn't realize how long it had actually been and that it was getting close to being time for me to go back and have my PAP. So it was time. So I called, scheduled that, just came back from that. Not my favorite sort of an exam. I had a lovely nurse practitioner who I tend to prefer nurse practitioners. I don't know, I just like their model of care. I'm a fan. So that is who I had my PAP completed by. The recommendations that ACOG has around how often to have a PAP smear has changed. It's now 3 to 5 years, depending on what sort of test you have, what your results look like, what your provider says, your family history, your medical history. All of that goes into determining exactly when you should come back, but there's no longer a universal recommendation for everyone to get a yearly PAP, at least within my age range, right? I'm the 35 plus range. So within my age range, that's the recommendation. I'm actually going to put up the ACOG recommendations and I'm going to put them down below as well. So that has changed. What has not changed is the recommendation to have an annual exam. So no longer an annual PAP for everyone, but what still stands is an annual exam. All right, keep that in mind when you're thinking about what sort of appointments you might want to or need to schedule. Let's get back to the rest of the video. Second category, areas where things could be better, but it's not urgent. So I only had one thing in this category, and that was my supplement use. I'm not taking any of the supplements that I would recommend to my one-on-one clients who are actively trying to conceive or who are preparing their bodies to start trying to conceive in the next year, 3 months to a year. I'm not taking any of those supplements. So that's something that I would absolutely want to change, but that's something that I will address with myself. That sounds so crazy, but I'll address with myself during the nutrition session, which is next week. And the last piece in this category is more so a mindset thing for me. It is a fear of being seen trying, especially trying and pursuing something that other people don't think I have a right to pursue or want, that they may think that I'm delusional to pursue or want, or they may just have very strong opinions and judgments about someone pursuing and wanting. So I'm 39. I won't start trying to conceive until I'm in my 40s. And so there's a lot of fear around other people's thoughts and opinions about a woman being pregnant in her 40s, or even wanting to be pregnant in her 40s. I've actually been really fortunate on this channel to mostly only receive really kind and encouraging comments. But I've received a couple where I'm like, y'all ain't got no home training, like for real. You wouldn't say that to my face. You wouldn't. So two of the, I got a little testy there. Two of those were, they tickled a sensitivity. So one of them was where a woman called me a crazy woman who is sharing information that's not helpful, probably because I can't conceive myself. Ooh, that's not nice. The other one And I'm actually grateful that this other one came because it gave me the word to describe a feeling I had been carrying around and actually became a big part of my narrative. And it said, any woman who is convincing herself that it's a good idea to get pregnant in her 40s is just deluding herself. And I was like, thank you for that word, deluding. Delusion. I have so much fear around being seen as delusional. Is it delusional to want a kid later in life? I definitely don't think so. Not based on what I've seen with my one-on-one clients, not based on what I've seen when I actually look at the research and not just listen to what people who are misinformed or uninformed like to share or say or think, or the things that they like to use to judge people. But I do have a lot of fear that other people will judge me as such. And so one of the things that I'm going to be journaling around is this fear of being seen trying for this thing that's not guaranteed, for this thing that other people think I'm delusional to want. They're wrong, but I'm still afraid of their judgment. And so I really want to get to the root of that. That's something I'm going to be journaling about, something I'm going to be talking with loved ones, people who are safe to talk about these things with. Things I'm going to be praying about, right? So I'm really grateful for that rude person who doesn't have any home training. For giving me that word. So thank you. Very helpful. So we're gonna work on that. So I have 3 action steps for you. The very first action step I have for you is to get to know your menstrual cycle intimately and to get curious about what your menstrual cycle is telling you. I really emphasized curiosity here because I think sometimes we can get judgmental or fearful when we take a look at our menstrual cycle. It can become all about like, find what's wrong and fix it, as opposed to, what is this telling me? What are some changes I could make? I wonder why this is happening, right? Like there's a different energy in curiosity than there is in judgment and fixing. So bring some curiosity and definitely bring some compassion as you get to know your menstrual cycle intimately. Number 2, make sure that you are up to date on your exams. Go down to the description box below and take a look at ACOG's recommendations when it comes to things like your Well Woman exam and your PAP. Make sure that you're up to date on just your annual physical with your primary care provider. Make sure that you are up to date when it comes to your dental exams. Make sure you're up to date when it comes to your vaccines. Those are important things. There's actually one particular vaccine that you should get before you're pregnant because it's actually given as a live virus. So you want to make sure that if that's a vaccine that you need or a booster that you need, that you have it before you get pregnant. So have those conversations with your provider. Let them know that you were trying to conceive, and they will help you determine which exams you may need in addition to just the regular exams that are recommended for a person to stay well. And then the third one, explore your own story around fertility and definitely explore the ways other people's thoughts and ideas are impacting how you feel about your fertility. So write out your very own narrative. Share this story with people who feel safe, maybe a therapist or friend or family member. Maybe just journal through it, maybe pray about it. Choose what feels best to you. But get to know your story. Get to know what you're telling yourself about your body, about your fertility, about the size of your body. That's a big thing that comes up in a lot of sessions with people that I've worked with. About your age. Take a closer look at what your relationship with food has been like, with exercise, all of those sorts of things. Write out your story. So much valuable information for what I've done with my one-on-one clients has come from their stories, even more so than what I get from these intake forms where I'm gathering very objective data. Sometimes that subjective stuff, that's where the gold is. So definitely explore those stories. There is a particular journaling practice that I'm going to be doing around this whole feeling afraid of being seen pursuing something that's not guaranteed and that other people may think I don't have a right to, that I'd like to share with you. And it comes from this book, Transformational Journaling for Coaches, Therapists, and Clients. So here's the journaling prompt. So this comes from Susan Borgen, and it is on page 6 of this book, so very early on in the book. And it's an acronym, WRITE, W-R-I-T-E. So the first question is the W. What are your current beliefs? So I would ask you, what are your current beliefs about your fertility and your body? R. Which beliefs are no longer working for you and need to be released? I. Identify memories, search for beliefs from family, friends, and teachers. I'm going to add, and society, strangers on the internet. And T. Transform into new beliefs. So transform those beliefs that you've been holding on to into new beliefs. Maybe you just get curious and say, what would be the opposite of this? What would it feel like if I thought differently about this? And finally, we have E, empowering new beliefs. How would you like to live with new beliefs? So I'm going to be journaling through that on my own, and maybe I'll share that with you in the second session that we'll have together. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you found this helpful. If you would like some one-on-one guidance and assistance, head down to the description box below. There's so much down there. There's always so much down there, but definitely in this video where you can learn more about my one-on-one services. I would be delighted to work with you. And I look forward to seeing you in our next video or next session where we take a look at nutrition for fertility. And that's also, we're going to take a look at some of that supplement stuff that I hinted at in today's video. All right, enjoy your week, be well, and bye for now.